All right, sorry. So, hi everybody. Thank you for coming for today's discussion. My name is Sena Jubjimo. I am the Executive Director for OLA. OLA is Oromo Oromo Legacy Leadership Advocacy Association. It's a nonprofit organization registered in US. Our original name was Cohort, Coalitions of Oromo Advocates for Human Rights and Democracy, but eventually we transition into bigger organization. Now we do more than advocacy. So as I say, I'm the executive director for OLA. And what I would do is I am your host for today. My job is mainly to kind of introduce each speaker, give you a little bit of background on each of the speakers. And then I will take a question both online and then as well as those that I'm getting out through other ways. Okay, so let's see if I can. Okay, so the first speaker, not the first speaker, but one of the guys who's going to speak is Dr. Teferi Nuguse Tafa. He is associate professor. You have the PowerPoint in front of you, so I'm just going to read probably just the first paragraph. Is associate professor at University of Northwest.
Sorry.
I'm sorry?
Assistant.
Okay, assistant professor at University of Northwestern in Minnesota. He was a visiting professor at Norwich University from 2017 to 2019. Before he joined Norwich, he was a lecturer at Sidama University and Ambo University. He got his PhD from Sidama University in literature, MMA in human rights from Curtin University, Australia, and currently studying media at New York University. He has also taken course from Harvard University and Penn University. Okay, and then the second person is Abdi Mahmoud. Abdi is ethnic Somali who was arrived in San Diego with his family as a refugee from Ogaden, region of Ethiopia in 1982. As a first-generation American, his life achievements was truly remarkable. After graduating from Crawford High School, he studied business administration and finance at San Diego State University, where he obtained Bachelor of Science degree. He subsequently earned a master's degree in management from the University of Maryland School of Business, a certificate in advanced executive management from Stanford University, graduate of School of Business, and executive leadership certificate from Harvard University Kennedy School. Bakale Wario is, the PowerPoint will be online, so people who really want to know this speakers, will post that. Bakale Wario was born and raised in Sidama region of Ethiopia. Upon completing secondary school education, where he attended Gonda University for his undergraduate degree in public health in 2014 and worked as project manager for NGO. In 2016, he joined Sidama University Faculty of Public Health and graduated in 2008 with a Master of Public Health. After graduation, he worked as instructor in Department of Public Health, Public Policy and Planning for a year. He also worked for UNICEF and USAID as National Health Specialist. And Solomon, our last speaker, not last speaker, but our last here is, he is a CEO of media, Tigray Media House. I'm pretty sure a lot of us know it's a pretty big media, especially among Tigray community. With that, I'll take over, and in the background, who's hosting us, as you don't see her picture, is also Ayantu Absalam, who is the current president of OLA. We do have a few non-Ethiopian guests who are listening to this, so we're gonna be speaking to English, and we are expecting a couple of media will be airing this. If not, it is going on live. Gentlemen, welcome and thank you. So I guess our first speaker, each of you will have a 20 minutes to present. You can take up to 20 minutes, but I'm gonna keep the time. And then we get two speakers who will talk, and then we'll take a break about for 10 minutes. We'll either take a Q&A in that 10 minutes, or we'll just talk about something else. And then the next 22 speakers will speak, and then we're gonna have a Q&A at the end. Okay, so the first speaker is, I'm using multiple things, is Bakala Wario. He's going to be talking about the future of self-determination and nationalists in Ethiopia. I don't know, if you can make Bakala the main face, that would be nice. If not, Bakala, go ahead and please, feel free to add a little bit about yourself on background if you want to take. If not, Time is all yours. You got 20 minutes from now.
Okay, thank you, Sena, for a brief description and introduction. So my topic for today is just the feature of self-determination. Let's say, before I give you my outline, self-determination in our case may be considered as a transgression of divine law in Ethiopia. So it's not only Ethiopia. So many Ethiopians, maybe those who do not like multinationality and do not appreciate that, they see it as very something that evil that created to destroy Ethiopia. So that's must be considered. Must be taken into consideration. So before I go to briefly what the feature of self-determination will be in Ethiopia, it's better to broaden our understanding and giving brief description, a brief explanation, brief the origin of the self-determination is better. So I outlined my presentation for the next 20 minutes like this: definition of the self-determination, what it looks like, and how it's defined, and briefly what historical background, how it came into this world, and how it's came emerging into the international politics from the customary or from traditional law. The other is what was self-determination, how self-determination became as an issue to the Ethiopian politics during starting from the revolution in 1970s that ended up changing the imperial regime, and how TPLF, APRDF treated the self-determination in Ethiopia, and what it looks like, and what were the problems during this time. So as to the definition, many politicians say self-determination came from customary law that's used elsewhere in the globe, and it emerged as a powerful concept, and it came to the international politics. So the right of people to self-determination is considered as cardinal principle in the modern international law, and it defines accordingly. So its self-determination is that denotes legal right of people to decide their own destiny in international order. They have rights to decide their own destiny. People, it can be like nations and nationalities in our case, have a right to decide their own destiny according to the international law. And this is a core principle in international law, which is arised from international, arised from customary law, but also recognize general principles of law and enshrined in number of declarations, covenants of international laws and conferences. So briefly, also the concept of self-determination is emerged in 19th century. Many writers say that it's emerged newly in 19th century, but it's came from the customary or traditionally existing laws and norms. But in 19th century, it came into the form of international relation and became the guiding principle to reconstruct European nations following the World War First. As we all know, most of the World War who were involved in European countries. So that's the concepts newly emerged into into international as following the World War I. So that in that time, the idea was to decide nations and nationalities they live their territorial unity. Territorial units was championed by Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson, who was like 28th president of the United States, and agreed by Vladimir Lenin. And in his, that was again, Woodrow Wilson presented 14 points principle that emphasized people of different nationalities be able to have their own border or permitted to live their own autonomy. And they have to have their own development and autonomous development. In 1918, February 11, he again emphasized nations' aspiration must be respected. Peoples now may be dominated and governed only by their own consent. That's the core principle presented by the points forwarded by the Woodrow Wilson. So any nations or people who identify themselves must be dominated and governed by their own consent. So when it comes, this is according to his point, self-determination is not a mere phrase. It is imperative principles of law. Then after, during the World War II, in August 1941, allies of the World War to declare the Atlantic Charter and accepted the principles of self-determination. And in January 1942, 26 states signed the declaration. The ratification of the United Nations Charter in 1945, and after the end of the war, the work of international law and diplomacy. In that declaration, in Chapter 1, Article 1, Part 2 states that purpose of the UN Charter is to develop friendly relations among nations based on the respect for principles of equal rights and determination, self-determination of peoples, and take the appropriate measures to strengthen universal peace. That is that stated in the chapter. And Article 1 again is and both international covenants on civil and political rights, and international covenants on social and cultural rights states that all peoples have a right of self-determination by virtue that they freely determine their political status, freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. So the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 15 states that everyone had the right to nationality, and that no one should be deprived arbitrarily the nationality or denied the right of changing nationality. So as we can see, there is any nations created, based on the will of the people they have, and nations, but still most of the nations have a right to change their own destiny and change their own nationality. So international laws, since the start of the concept of self-determination, allows nations to have their own destiny and decide their own destiny, and self-determination is national and internationally accepted covenant. So the rights of self-determination of people is recognized in many other international and regional instruments, including Declaration of Principles of International Law concerning friendly relations and cooperation among states, and adopted in the UN General, which was in 1970. Helsinki final acts adopted by the Conference on Security and Cooperation in Europe in 1975. Africa Charter of Human and People's Rights, 1981. This all supports the international the self-determination, and legal self-determination is very legal and powerful concept in the international politics. So what looks like self-determination and how it was treated in our case during the revolution of Ethiopia in 1976. So that's, we remember most of the Ethiopian nations were treated inhumanly by the imperial regime, and that necessitated the change to come. There were two questions, as many of politicians say, that belongs to the nations and nationalities of Ethiopia during the empire regime. One is land ownership. The land was taken away from the Ethiopian farmers and nations nationalities, and they were forced to serve the imperial regime. And the other thing was the identity, that they lost their identity forcefully, and they are supposed to then they are forced to assimilate into the system of imperial regime. So these two questions were the main question, and many revolutionary students whom we pioneer, Waleli Makoni and others, they raised the issue of national self-determination, and I can call here how it is his article of Waleli Makoni states that Ethiopia was not one nation. That means I go above. National operation in imperial regime argued that as Ethiopia was not one nation, but rather the collection of different nations and nationalities whose struggle is for self-determination. That point was very powerful point, powerful agenda, and supported by many others, and brought this many change to Ethiopia. So immediately the Derg regime came in power after the fall down of the empire regime, but the Derg regime failed to answer the question of nations and nationalities. That's why the Derg regime, again, the chance of Derg regime was to fall. So what came after Derg regime was the EPRDF. When EPRDF came to Ethiopia, the question of self-determination is very needy point. So that agenda should be treated, and the EPRDF treated the self-determination by granting regional autonomy for others, like what you call it in a federalized, in decentralized government. So that's why many people argued federal system, but it's because including even those who belonged, whose question was decentralization and federalism, including my nation, for example, because TPLF was the EPRDF government was not fully federalized the country, as it was partially federalized. When you come to some of the regions granted their autonomy, and almost 70% of ethnic groups, the region which belongs to 70% of the ethnic groups, almost 56 ethnic groups in Ethiopia were put under one ballot, and they treated and in the wrong way. That created a crisis in Ethiopia, and that became, the EPRDF forced it to be out of the government. So the other thing during the EPRDF was that in a federal state, the mandatory thing must be democratization and supremacy of law. So during the EPRDF, there was a constitution that was agreed by nations and nationalities, but not effectively put on practice. They used it for different purposes, and there was problem of realizing, putting on practice. So that created many problems. And the law of supremacy of law was very, very unpractical. That created corruption, that created violation of human rights, and so on. Necessitate the change to happen. The other thing was democracy. There was no democracy. There had been almost 5 elections or 4 elections, and none of the elections were fair and free, and people had no chance to choose their own representative fairly and freely. And that was the problem which created Ethiopia to go back to the vicious cycle. So what happened and what Ethiopia looks like this time? Because there was gap between what the EPRDF assumed, and there is a gap. The regions were not fully autonomous, and they were not granted full authority, and the need for a change arrived. So the change brought new government reformists, which is not clearly known up to date. I can say no anyone can comment me in this issue, but I don't know what you can say. The new government didn't tell us what they follow. Usually, when the new prime minister elected, we assume he came because of to practice and to implement the change that people demand, and that necessitates the change in everywhere in the country. But now we don't see the people treated and law put in practice accordingly, and the country has no direction, and the change is not accepted by many people who were front runners. Let's say the move was from Oromia region because no real federalism there, and others. Now we see change in the direction to where this will go. Does it go to the real federalism? No. We are seeing a challenge. We are seeing critics that blame how Ethiopia was treated for the last 28 years. The question came to put the self-determination into practice, really, and for those who need. You can remember Sidama had not free election to vote their destiny, but still the government is very hesitant to transfer power from the old regime to the new regime. This is very sad. And they are creating many criteria that is irrelevant with, and we see election is not going in the right way and in the right time, and the government is trying to find how to go through. So these are the very critical problems, and the feature of self-determination in Ethiopia is it's falling under the hand of one person and some others who are really against the federalism and against the pro-federalists in Ethiopia. So it's very uncertain. And my way forward is for this, as always, self-determination and federalism in case of Ethiopia is very, very, very essential and very existential for the state. No one can deny this fact. No one, no government, no any autocratic government can reverse this fact, and it must be pointed out. The other is, it's impossible to bring the old hegemony. It's impossible to bring the old hegemony, and that's already forgotten. The other thing, nations must gratify the rights as they are respected and properly and equally treated in their land. So once they gratify the self-determination, and once they are respected and equally treated, the issue of self-determination will be there. So my points are this: the self-determination is not only in Ethiopia, it's everywhere in the world. Everywhere. Mostly our problem is with Article 39, which is rights for self-determination, but it's not only in Ethiopia, everywhere. So it has to be respected, and I think Sena is pointing out for me. Thank you for so much.
Okay, that is our cue. Thank you so much, Bagala. I appreciate it. I just want to say, if you guys are not speaking, I would assume everybody go ahead and put yourself on mute. For those of you who joined us just right now, you just heard from Bagala Wario, who is from the Sidama region area. He spoke about self-determination, especially in current time. Bagala, thank you so much. Self-determinations have came since the continent of Africa have recognized in 1981. That's nearly about 40 years. In 1970, in the Atlantic Charter, that's a very deep, the world have recognized self-determination as a means for all nations and nationality to do so. I will open up a Q&A after about 20-minute break after the next speaker. I'll just go ahead and jump on to next speaker. And for those of you guys who joined us, and I'm being told that we're having a problem on Facebook and to media group. I don't know what to do. I'll continue talking to them, trying to figure out how we can work out that. But I'll go ahead and give the next topic to Abdi Mahmoud, who will be talking on about economic inequality and employment. Abdi Mahmoud, go ahead. You got 20 minutes from now, please.
Sorry, Sena.
Yes.
Can you push your computer just away from you?
Oh, because okay. I'm way close. Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Okay. Is there any other requests that you guys would like to make? We'll take about a minute and I'll do that. Teferi, I don't know if you guys just trying to, the media situation, we're having a little bit of an issue.
I think, I don't know if they are recording or not, but they told me that.
Okay, we are, it is being recorded, but we just wanted to make sure that we're having a little bit of a difficulty. Okay, Abdi Mahmoud, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Sina. Thanks to the organizers of this wonderful event. I know that we've rescheduled from our March event at the National Press Club due to the pandemic that's going on. Thanks to the committee for putting in a hard work, and all the participants that are able to show up today. What I wanted to talk about today is basically in two folds. Briefly mention the economic aspects of what's going on in Ethiopia. Briefly talk about maybe perhaps how Ethiopia evolved, just briefly as far as economics and where it's headed to. As you know, back under Haile Selassie, under Mengistu, Ethiopia was basically a farming nation. It was seen as a relatively poor nation that is unable to sustain itself economically. And as time went on, more people started moving from the rural areas to the big cities. And we all know back in during Mengistu's time, we had the Great Famine. And at that time, you had a military dictatorship coupled with no economic growth. So really it was one of the really bad times for Ethiopia. Ethiopia was seen in much of the world as sort of a poster child of what's a nation that is unable to sustain itself and unable to provide itself. And we all know about the 1984 famine. Now, after Mengistu comes the coalition led by TPLF. TPLF made some headway as far as increasing economic output, and that is very important because where things were, you only can go. There's only one way to go, and which is up. So you saw that a lot of people in the urban areas were able to lift themselves up financially. But the rural areas still is largely farming. Many areas, it was more of a lifestyle, and so forth. So you made some progress economically, but the issue that then didn't escape was the fact that enormous human rights violations. So Ethiopia was still seen as a nation that was unable to respect basic human dignity. So many nations, including Western powers, see Ethiopia as a vehicle for security issues, not so much as a power to cooperate with, as a nation that has values that are aligned with Western values. So it was more of it's a partner that we can partner. But besides that, no one wanted to be. So then obviously came the change that was, that came as a result of the uprising that has started in the two largest, population-wise, the two areas, the Oromo region and the Amhara region. And this is probably about mid 2015, and at that time, we saw the power of youth. We saw what the future of Ethiopia is going to look like. We saw that all of these people were demanding change. And according to USAID, 40% of Ethiopia's population is under 15 years old. And probably a larger percentage when you talk about 29 years and under. So all of these people, they were demanding change. And when you have that kind of grassroots uprising, it is very difficult for there not to be change. So 2 years ago, we witnessed the coming to power of Dr. Abiy Ahmed. And at that time, obviously, many people's expectations, we're rising steadily. And in some of the changes that have occurred in 2 years were truly remarkable. And we can know mainly inviting a lot of the armored political organizations to come, because once you turn the corner and turn a lot of your disputes into political disputes rather than armed conflicts, then that itself changes the environment. That itself helps people's movement. And I can tell you for a fact in the Somali region or the Ogaden region, when the ONLF was invited for talks, and they did take advantage of that. You know, we had for the first time in probably several decades, we just had total peace. You could move around anywhere. And that also has a very positive effect on economic growth because people and goods are able to move back and forth without without any fear, and that has a coupling effect. And so a lot of diasporas were able to go back, and that results in a lot of economic growth. Now, the region is still dependent on resources from the federal government, but it's a start. Now, what I believe is that the number one issue that's going to define the Abiy legacy, and there are certainly a lot of issues, as you know, the issues of federalism. What's the future of that? Some people are very suspicious that there's going to be some move on federalism. Officially, from what we've seen from the Prime Minister, he supports, you know, Ethiopia continuing to be a federal system. With that being said, as things move forward, there's going to be really two issues. Is in the government how to fight corruption. So I'm going to go economic liberalization first. Economic liberalization is going to be a key for the simple reason that Ethiopia has a long history of being a state where everything is controlled in a very harsh way at the center. And once certain individuals have enormous clout or enormous control of economic aspects of the country, then those people tend to look out for their own interests and not so much of market efficiency. So right now you see taxations on some items that are 100%. How could you sustain products coming into the country being taxed 100%? It's just not feasible. So economic liberalization is going to be key because that is going to produce economic outputs, which in turn would also is going to be able to have the government collect a lot of tax revenues. And the more tax revenues you collect, the more is the government able to do as far as providing services to its constituencies. And as you go down that road, there tends to be a cascade effect because one thing leads to the other. So if the government is able to collect more in taxes, then they're able to increase civil servants' pay. Now, we know that historically, civil servants in Ethiopia has been underpaid tremendously. And the problem then is when a civil servant is underpaid and they're not able to basically even pay their own rent with the salary that they're getting, then a lot of people see taking bribery and all these things come into play. Now, Ethiopia has actually a long history of a very proud civil servants. So if wages are increased, then there is less likely is going to be dependent on things such as bribery, and they're able to produce and at the same time have a government where people could actually feel good, a government that people can trust, a government that people see as not just looking out for themselves. So economic liberalization, opening the country up to more investments, a lot of focus on the rule of law. Nations must feel, or companies must feel, I could invest in Ethiopia and my investments are safe, or my investments are relatively safe. And so and the issue with that obviously is when we saw a lot of the uprisings in 2016, some properties were damaged. So people will have that in the back of their minds. So that is going to be an issue of how to liberalize the economy, so you can have an economy that's market driven, an economy that's competitive, an economy that doesn't have monopolies that are in the hands of few individuals. And the more you have a market-based economy, then you see people competing and prices dropping. And when people's incomes rise, their purchasing power goes up. And that's how you raise up, the standards of living of people. And all of those people that we saw in 2016, 17, they are the future of Ethiopia. The youth are the future of Ethiopia. And today, you've got a world that's interconnected. All those youth, they have cell phones. They are connected to social media. They can see what people in neighboring states are doing or neighboring countries. And so we must create opportunities and a future for all those people. If that does not happen, then everything else is really loose, because all nations that have basically collapsed, as you can say, the majority of them, issues of economics have been at the forefront. And so a country that has over 100 million people, it's going to take a lot of work to make or to produce a system that works for them. Now, the second issue that also is corruption. Now, this government has obviously, they've adopted a lot of things from the previous government. And, historically and culturally, things that are, they move at a slow, changes are always very difficult. And it's always a work in progress. As time goes on, you will tend to see, if you don't have a government that fights corruption, then there is going to be less trust of government. People are going to be very cynical, and that is not a recipe for a long-term, survival of the country. Now, Dr. Abiya's government, I think, has to put a lot of focus, continuous focus, on fighting corruption, because now you're seeing, as a previous government, you're seeing a lot of loans coming from many entities, from other governments, from big corporations, sometimes mainly from China. And so if those investments are not harnessed, if those investments don't pay off, and corruption comes into play, then you're just going to have a country that is saddled with a lot of debt with nothing much to show for. So there's got to be continuous effort to make sure that corruption is controlled, because you're making investments now that'll pay off in the long term. And if those investments pay off, then the opportunities that we were talking about for creating youth come to be realized. And so if I just turn, for example, into the Somali regional state, or the Ogaden region, that's a huge right now. We have a government now that is so feeble, so incompetent, that they're unable to deliver basic services. And governance has always been an issue in our region, but this one really takes the cake. And there don't seem to be as much focus from the federal government to make sure that those scarce resources are utilized in the most efficient manner. And so once you have regional governments that are not carrying out or their mandate, or are not putting focus on economic growth, fighting corruption, then there tend to be people just become cynical, and that's what's going on right now. So unless the Abiy government really makes changes, I think the image of PP in the Somali region is going to continue to deteriorate because people are not getting much of a services. So, and this could play out in many different regions. I mean, it's not just obviously one region, but when you talk about relative, everything is relative, obviously. In many other parts of Ethiopia, I would assume that something similar is going on. And this, the reason that is occurring is because there's just too much stuff on Dr. Abiy's plate, but it is imperative that this becomes a priority, because long term this really defines the future of Ethiopia. If we're not able to meet the basic needs of people today, which is opportunities and employment, and the government itself, everything by itself, really. It needs cooperation. Now, let's just admit that as far as human rights, there has been drastic improvements, even though we've just seen recently a little bit of going back to the past with Amnesty International's report that just came out. But certainly in other parts of the country, human rights have drastically improved, which again changed the image of Ethiopia, because that has been what is holding it down. So I see a future where if we're not able to meet the needs of these young people, and they're in every region, and they're the future of Ethiopia, then everything else is really mute. So a lot of focus on economic development, economic liberalization, fighting corruption, holding people accountable, just so there is improvements. There are a lot of countries, if we use, just go to an example, India. If we go to countries such as India at one time has been considered probably to be the most corrupt country in the world. But through a lot of effort, a lot of systematic change, it's a thriving country as we see today. So, all roads all roads are difficult to go on, but it's a must. It's the one that we must travel, and I think that the future looks very, very bright for Ethiopia if things are managed properly. And I will just stop there and see if there's any other questions. Thanks, everybody.
You're on mute, Sena. You're on mute.
Yes, you're mute.
We can't hear you, Sena. You're on mute.
Thank you. My phone rang, so I put it on mute. I was saying thank you so much, Abdi. You are 1 minute ahead, and I appreciate that very much. We'll take about 20 minutes, and we'll just talk, and I'll give you guys a chance to ask. One of the questions I would like for Abdi, and Ayantu, she's in the technical. If you have any question, please go ahead and write in the comment section. I know you're muted. And then I see there's about 11 comments, but I haven't been able to really read down. I'm trying to pay a little bit of attention here. But I just wanted to ask both Abdi as well as Bekele. Basically, the first one is, Bekele, the issue of self-determination is obviously has been there for 40 years for African continents. They adopted, but it still is like when it comes to Ethiopia, it seems like the maybe the elites, so maybe the keepers of Ethiopians, that they see as a danger to one unity of Ethiopia. How do they, how does the current government, the Abiy government, see the issue of self-determination in your view, especially Sidama being the youngest nation within Ethiopia? And this, my second question is the issue of unemployment that Abdi talked about. Abdi, you mentioned a very interesting thing, the issue of about corruption, and then economic issue being at the center of all the government that collapses. In your view, in relation to what we are right now facing, we work together on a human rights issue in Washington, D.C. You did say economy plays the heart of any solid government. Just, take about a minute, and I would like to open up if you guys have a question. You can add to that. So my first question is obviously for Wario, that to self-determination being this old, but it's still being sensitive, especially in the current time. How do you see it? Is it just the elite or is it the mass Ethiopian public? And the second one is for Abdi from my side, is that you mentioned a lot of good things. It's, economy playing the central role for one sustainable government in Ethiopia, where you have, as you say, 40% of the population is under the age of 15. This is crazily young people. So how do you see that in being currently as far as with the Abiy administration? Keep that in mind, and then I'll give a chance to our attendees to kind of ask us. Ayantu, if you have something to say, please go ahead and say. She's helping us in the background, trying to connect on Facebook and things like that. I will open up. If we have a lot of crazy, then we'll meet you guys. If not, Ayantu, could you please let everybody unmute and let them speak?
Okay. Thank you, Sina, for your question. As I have said, I said earlier when I start, yes, many Ethiopians, especially elites of right wing, they assume they preach about democracy. Democracy means it's nothing. Democracy is how people govern themselves. That as we have seen earlier in my presentation, starting from as it's self-determination emerged as a very powerful concept. It empowers legally, internationally accepted way how people govern themselves, and that keeps peace of international community. So when it comes to Ethiopia, it's obvious Ethiopians were treated in a wrong way, and that necessitated change. And we are really at very far to implement the questions of self-determination, and it was partial, as I have said earlier. So the government of Ethiopia was, even during the first EPRDF was very reluctant to grant self-determination and regional autonomy for many ethnic groups who under the SNNPR. Sidama was one of the ethnic groups who was like expressing demand for self-determination, and that was held for a long period of time. When the change came last time, after the first EPRDF, lost control, then the reforms, during the reforms, as accordingly Sidama asked a question, and that question came to the table, and finally the government decided to hold a referendum for Sidama, and then that was Sidama voted 99%, over 97%, and that's for the first time. As you remember, when EPRDF formed the structure of the Ethiopia, thus they divide arbitrarily based on the language and so on, except in the case of SNNPR. For the first time, Sidama voted, and then by its votes declared regional autonomy, and that regional autonomy is still under the stake of the government. So the reformist government is why I say it's uncertain, because we are seeing a lot of things that blame the existing government, including the federalism. So when federalism is under the question in other cases, it's very frustrating for Sidama to be a region as well. And so the government is taking different measures to hold and keep that as it is there. And we don't know what will happen. So every nation, even if not only Sidama, whoever who would have their own nation must answer this question.
Okay, thank you so much, Abdi. Please take 2 minutes only, and then next person will be Brahanu. You'll have a chance to ask.
The issue of economic development and youth, you know, from what I see, even though I am not obviously privileged to internally what the government is doing, but it should be a really, really huge focus, because I feel that if there is not enough effort being put in, then a lot of those youths, which to begin with have their expectation of Dr. Abiy's government is actually sometimes too much. It is very difficult to have enough of a change where all of their demands and dreams and hopes and aspirations could be met. So that is one of the problems that Dr. Abiy is dealing with. It's just that people have too much expectations, and couple that with a bureaucracy that is, you know, very slow in moving. And will that bureaucracy over time produce the intended effect of having an open economy where there's enough investments in the country, where you can at least to some extent have people's expectations be met? Now, one of the issues that I see that we don't see enough focus on is, for example, is holding people accountable. For example, there's many projects that around the entire country who the government made a lot of investments in, and it didn't turn out to be the way that we expected it to be. And so the second question is, how do you create a system where you're creating a deterrent where people will say, oh, okay, well, if this doesn't go well, so and that's the problem, because when you have administration right now with so much to deal with, everything from you know, the issue with dealing with you know, how to move a country to a one-party system. You know, there's just and obviously you have issues involved right now with elections that are still uncertain of how things will play out. So I feel that there's not much focus on economic development long term, because all of those youths, if they don't have a future, it is very difficult to have a country. I mean, that is, you know, to put it bluntly.
Okay, thank you so much. I will go ahead and allow Brahanu Duguma to go ahead and ask, and then and I'll just advise that keep it short. That way we'll have a test show after Brahanu will ask a question. We have about maybe 10 more minutes, and then we'll go to next speaker. At the end, we will have more Q&A. Go ahead, Brahanu, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would really appreciate for you guys to
Brahanu, did you put yourself? We can't see you. It's okay if you want to just speak, but I just want to say we don't see you.
Okay. I'll just say thank you very much for bringing us together and listen to this very interesting conversation on a very critical topic. And I also appreciate the presenters' insight into what is happening in Ethiopia and where they think we should be going. My question is specifically for Mr. Abdi. He made two points, in my opinion, that I kind of have a difficulty to swallow it as it is unless he clarifies it for me. And those 2 points are EPRDF made progress economically. That is a fairly loaded statement, I'm afraid to say. My personal experience and many Ethiopians' experience, non-Tigray Ethiopians, their experience is completely different. So my question to you is, first of all, what is your understanding of EPRDF? My understanding of EPRDF is a name created by TPLF to camouflage itself in order to pursue its overarching goal of supporting Tigrayan interest in Ethiopia. That is what they did for 27 years. They collected a bunch of guys and called them OPD or whatever, Amhara Region Party, etc., and deceived the world for 27 years until the Oromo youth couldn't take it any longer and chased them out of Addis Ababa or Finland. So from you, I want to understand, what is your understanding of EPRDF, a typical representative of Ethiopian people that encompasses every nationality in every nation in that country? Do you really believe that is what they served? Number two, economically prospered. Again, as an old dude who started this whole journey with Melissa, whom I knew as Lagessa Zenawi, up to today, what I have seen is every other Ethiopian who had the means to survive in that country was dispossessed for the last 27 years and became beggars, because TPLF systematically targeted those people who did not buy into their ideology to destroy their well-being, to destroy their resources. And then the guys who walked into Finland barefooted became multi-millionaires. If not multi-billionaires, and I don't have to go to the details. Sorry, I'm not lecturing you, I'm just highlighting my point to get to my question. And in that same process, 5 of my people, my own sisters and brothers' economy was destroyed with so many other people targeted by TPLF using tax as an excuse to destroy their business because they were perceived as their enemy. So my question to you, Mr. Abdi, whose prosperity are we talking about? Is that the same language the World Bank and IMF are using to continue to fund the crime in Ethiopia over 27 years? Or are you talking about real prosperity of Ethiopians? Thank you.
Very good question.
Thank you so much. Give me a second. Wario, did you want to say something? But I wanted to get a question.
Add something, thank you, Brahanu. He said, but I want to add something on it, like that's the connected question.
But give me a wait. Could you hold on? I wanted, okay, that question is specifically the one Brahanu asked. I think it targets for Abdi. I want you to also add on it, but I wanted to take a question from Tasho too, that I want him to go ahead and add. So you guys can answer at the same time. Is that okay, Wario?
No, it's not my answer, but I have a question for Abdi. That's why I want to, ratify.
Go ahead.
So yes, Abdi said, finally, Mr. Brahanu made brief. So, yes, with the fate of Ethiopia now, we can blame the old EPRDF. Yes, that's created change to happen in Ethiopia. Now we see the change is going the wrong way. Those old guys, very corrupt, who were abusing and exploiting in a wrong way, are in power again. And the system is empowering them and more advancing them. You don't see change. The name is change, but no change at all. Corruption is as it is, and corruptors became more, bastards, or is reinforced. In this case, how do you think the future of Ethiopia and young generation will be, the demand of young generation will be met in this pseudo or a very delirious prosperity during this time? That's my question.
Okay, thank you so much, Abdi. I want to go ahead to Tashro. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Sena. And I just want to make correction. I know it doesn't really matter, but it's not Berhanu, it's Bahiru.
Bahiru, thank you so much.
The person that asked the question before me is Bahiru.
Okay.
I just wanted to correct that before I proceed.
Sorry, Sena misled me.
That's why I corrected, because I was okay with Sena, but when people repeated it, I thought that should be corrected.
Oh, Bahiru.
The record, because it's a recorded session. My question is to Mr. Abdi Muhammad. You concluded your statement by saying the future is bright for Ethiopia. Are you trying to be optimistic and take the glass is half full approach in your statement because of maybe the potential and the energetic youth that is there, and maybe the foreign investors that are presenting themselves? How do you reconcile this statement with the current situation that's in Ethiopia right now, with the deteriorating relationship between the government and the people, the mass detention that we were accustomed to for the last three decades, and imprisonments and killings, and everything is returning, if not at the same level, not more than it was, at least at the same level of in the past. So how do you just kind of speak on that last statement that you made in your speech? And thank you for being here and presenting, both of you, the speakers.
Okay.
All right.
That's it. That's my question.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think all the question is for Abdi. Go ahead, Abdi.
Yes. Well, first of all, I don't disagree with a lot of the statements that have been said. Just to start out with just the last question. Yes, I'm being optimistic. You know, we have to believe that things will get better, because we know the history of Ethiopia. We had successive brutal regimes that have very little disregard for people's rights. So yes, you know, this new administration is certainly starting, and you know, time will tell what direction it takes. And so, I mean, that is all for all of us to witness. And so yes, so I am being optimistic. The second issue is as far as EPDRF. Yes, I agree with everything that has been said about EPDRF. And just look at Human Rights Watch reports under EPDRF. More brutality and carnage has happened under the Ogaden region than I would say probably all regions combined. I mean, so we know what the legacy is, and yes, a lot of that economic development we're targeted for a lot of TPLF elites. But what I see, economic improvements, everything is relative. Everything is relative. So when you had the economic system under Mengistu, when you compare that to EPDRF, yes, there is economic improvement. But again, everything is relative. If someone has $5 and someone has $7, well, the one has $7 is wealthier, but in the whole scheme of things, not by much. So I just wanted to clarify and just make that point. But the future is for all of us to determine. We're in a new environment now where everything is interconnected. What we do in the diaspora is going to have effect of what goes on the ground. And so I don't think that it's just the Dr. Abiy government that is solely going to determine Ethiopia's future. I think that is going to be civil society, going to be the youth, community leaders, diaspora. It's going to be a whole host of stakeholders that are going to determine which direction Ethiopia heads to. Thank you very much. More questions?
That's our 20 minutes up. You still get a chance to ask later on after the next speakers or presenters present. I just wanted to say I see a lot of my heroes. Kuwaikum said a lot of amazing people here. Thank you for joining us. You please go ahead and unmute. I see, if you can unmute, yes. So if Ayantu will meet you guys afterward. But Adekwe, did you raise your hand? Yes, okay, can you unmute her, Ayantu, please? She's still, let me unmute myself, if I can. Okay, go ahead and please speak, and then welcome to us. Great to see you.
Wonderful to see you too. Thank you so much for organizing such a timely and very important conference. I'm sorry I missed it because I couldn't get in from the very beginning. So the only person I listened to is Abdi. So my question is for Abdi. I was mind-boggling for me to hear that he was saying, Abdi, that you were saying, human rights have drastically improved in Ethiopia. And that, I don't know how to say this, but have you actually heard what's going on in Ethiopia right now in the region of Oromia? Those very revolutionary heroes and young people who brought the change itself are being hunted down like wild animals, being killed, being brothers from the same family are being killed and hunted down, and political opposition parties are being herded into prison. Is this a drastic improvement on human rights? That really was, I don't know. I was talking when you were talking about that. Do you know what is going on, or are you just assuming? Yes, you said you wanted to be optimistic. It's good to be optimistic. We're all optimistic. We all are hopeful because we need hope to keep on going. But with hiding the facts that are going on, I think that's a terrible disservice to justice and to anything hopeful. I just wanted to know whether you actually know what's going on and covering it, or whether you don't know. I'm sorry. I just couldn't take that.
That's okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Kwe Kumsa. She's just, for those of you guys who came, we will share a PowerPoint, the background of these people, including Abdi. Abdi came to this country about 1982. Have done lots of work with the US government, with several US presidents as well. And he does work, we work together on HR2. And I just wanted to kind of give that, he will add his version that we are talking. We were in Washington, D.C. to get together in March to talk to Congress what to do. And definitely, especially in context of federalism, there are some guests in here that have said they will come from that work with the U.S. government, that this very conversation is about that. How do the different Ethiopians see the current regime? Because the current regime, they might be divide and rule. One area is feeling the pain, even within Oromia, is might be different. Dr. Kowe Kumsa, I wanted to say, Abdi, is that she's been, all of her life, she has spent struggling for Oromo people. She's a founder and leader of OILF, and she recently returned to Ethiopia. I don't know if she's in Ethiopia or in Canada, but Abdi, take 2 minutes to answer it. We go to the next question. After that, we will we'll get another Q&A. If you want to answer, if not, we can go to.
I will. Well, thank you, Doctor, for the question. Yes, I did actually mention the recent report that came out, but the problem also is that, under EPDRF rule, most Ethiopians had very little idea of what was going on in the Ogaden region. I don't know if any of you have read, the report that came out in 2018 on jail Ogaden. I don't know if any of you guys have read the other 2008 report, over 150 pages by Human Rights Watch, where hundreds of villages were burned to the ground. So yes, everything is relative, but those are not happening to that scale right now, obviously. Certainly in our region, that's not happening. So everything is relative. And I did mention that the recent report, but overall, the situation that you had and the situation that you have right now, when you look at it objectively, yes, when things happen in your region, yes, you're gonna feel pain that others do not. And we felt more pain than all of Ethiopians combined because what EPDRF have done to our people. Just go back and look at the records of the brutality and the ruthlessness, and that was not evident in many parts of Ethiopia. And so, but we have to take a look at it in an objective manner. So a lot of those horrific things, they're no longer present. And yes, when regions, when there's a lot of uprising, yes, the governments, successive Ethiopian governments, they turn to the use of force, and that's certainly what's happening from what I read in the Oromo and Amhara regions right now. But that is not widespread as it used to. That was the only point I'm trying to make. Certainly, the old situation is not present right now. That's what I was making. But I was not in no way saying that nothing's happening. I did mention the Amnesty International that came out, which is a step in the wrong direction.
Okay, thank you so much, Abdi. Now I see that some of you guys have raised your hand, but we'll just have to get back to you guys on the next round. But I wanted to share so this is Abdi's background. Just quickly, you can read it. Our next speaker will be God, I'm terrible. Alula Solomon, who is the CEO of Tigray Media Network. You guys watch it a lot. And let's see if I can, this is the man you're gonna hear next speaking. And he will be talking about banality of one man's party. So I'll just exit from here. Alula, you got 20 minutes, please. And I see your hands, go ahead, and you are more than welcome to write your question there, to email it to me. Ayanto and I are coordinating. And then after Alula, we'll have Dr. Teferi, and then we'll have another longer Q&A for all four of them. The first two of them for about 20 minutes, and then it will be Q&A for the rest of you guys. I think Alula is muted. Okay, now go ahead, Alula, please.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Good. I think there is some confusion on the screen, but I'll try to, figure that out. Okay, thank you so much. First, I would like to thank Sina and Ola for organizing such a very wonderful conference, which helps us to bring a diverse opinion on the current state of Ethiopia. So the topic that given to make presentation is about one-man party, or we can call it one-man government as well. That when you have one-man party, it's very predictive to say there is also a one-man government. So here's the thing. As all of you know, 29 years ago, Ethiopia had embarked to a system which offers a multi-party system, plural ideas and views, and also a federal system, because before 1991, I think I was muted.
No, you're not. We can hear you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So But since the transition, political transition in 1991, Ethiopia started to be a multinational federal system instead of what had been, called as a unitary system during the imperial regime and during the Mengistu military regime. It was a unitary system. Some people actually say it was a federal based on geography, but even the federal geography, the regions that are marketed based on geographical location, were not didn't enjoy the autonomy of regional states, so that we can be convinced to say that the 1991 transition actually was from a unitary system of government to federal, multinational federal system. So since then, we had this 1995 Ethiopian constitution, which granted regional autonomy of nations and nationalities in Ethiopia, but it lacked democracy, and in some areas, nations were actually demanding for more autonomy, especially the regional state of the southern nations and nationalities. There were demands from the Sidama for regional autonomy, which we recently saw a referendum by the people, but still there is no transfer of power from the SNNPR to the newly, the new regional state of Sidama. So the government will have been criticized for the lack of democracy in the last, 27 years, and there was also violation of human rights. Journalists have been imprisoned, and so on. So, but we can agree. I believe we can agree that the 1991 transition has showed us Ethiopia made a transition from a unitary system, a government system, to a multinational federal system. Since we have these 9 regional states, before we didn't know Oromia regional state, Tigray regional state, and the other 7 regional states. So this can be taken as a good transition of the 1991, which later on supported by the multinational constitution, which was ratified in 1995. So this is one thing. As you know, the Ethiopian Ethiopians in general, the Ethiopian people had never agreed on the nation building project of different governments since the 19th century. We can start from Emperor Menelik, for example. It was expansionist, brutal, and it deprived nations. It deprived the rights of nations, nationalities for autonomy, to express their culture, identity, and to have the right to land ownership. So these nations and nationalities have been deprived from all these economic, cultural, and self-administration rights. So the 1995 constitution, Ethiopian constitution, tried to address this grievances of nations and nationalities in Ethiopia. So going back to the main point, which is given to me to discuss on about one-man rule or one-man government. Currently, we are having this government of Prime Minister Abiy, which is trying to, to control the whole thing. Sorry. Yeah, the whole thing, the whole political process in Ethiopia by establishing a party called Prosperity Party, which is PP. If you remember in his address in June 2019, he declared that his government tried to change. His government tried to change. Sorry, I have a problem here.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So he said his government tried to change leaders of these regional states, except in Tigray. Imagine if, for example, if you hear this in the United States, Donald Trump saying that he's going to change all the governors in the United States, I mean.
Don't worry about the questions. Don't try to answer the question. Go ahead and continue with your point.
There is, well, I was trying to read the questions too at the same time. Yeah, there was a problem in granting self-rule of or self-administration of regional states during the EPRDF, which I call it actually the defunct EPRDF. I agree that there was a problem because the multinational federation lacks democracy. That's what I said earlier, as I tried to state the question of self-determination or self-administration of the Sidama people was not granted during the EPRDF time. I agree on that. So the multinational federal system lack democracy. But since the 2015 protest in different parts of Ethiopia, the EPRDF was forced to adopt a reform after having 17 days of meeting by the EPRDF executive committee. The four parties of the front agreed to make reform, to release prisoners, and to expand the political sphere, and to give more voice to people, to different political actors. So since then, a lot of people, the Ethiopian people, thought that there is a reason to be optimistic and to be positive about the reform. But now we still have, as you can recall, we still have problems. The Sidama issue is not resolved. still, and there is unrest in almost every part of the country, and still the Prosperity Party is trying to install a one-man ruling system, a one-man party, because as I have told you earlier, as an example, in June 2019, after the assassination of the chief of staff of the armed forces, Abiy made this statement in his address to the parliament. He said he changed leaders of different regional states. I think he said except in Benshangul and Tigray. So this shows us actually the after the defunct EPRDF, the PP is actually trying to create a unitary system, since the Prime Minister himself dearly despises the constitutional multinational federal constitution. He has been very clear in his intent that he wants to change the leaders of these regional states, even though he was not successful in doing that against Tigray, but he's been very clear of his intents. So he created this party, which is illegal, with the support he has from the National Electoral Board. They didn't have conference of the the general assembly of the PP. They didn't elect their leader. They just become a ruling party of the country, and they inherited all the power from the defunct EPRDF, except in Tigray, since we still have TPLF as a ruling party. So this changed, of course, the defunct the EPRDF, as you said it in your comments or questions. Of course, it was not democratic, but it was not a one party or a one-man party or a one-man government. We had, at least, despite the lack of democracy and autonomy, at least we had regional governments, heads of regional governments. But now it's just PP representatives. We have PP representatives in different parts of the country. So what Abiy is trying to do is to create his own, satellite states, which looks like a unitary system, a unitary system with satellite states in different parts of the country. He can call and change heads of the state at any time. For example, you can take Oromia. Lamma Magarsa was serving as president of the state, but they replaced the federal government replaced him without his knowledge. He was not even notified. They changed him, and then they replaced him with a guy who was working as a head of staff at the Prime Minister office. His name Shimelis Abdisa. He's now he's not even a member of the Oromia Council, Regional State Council, the Chafe Oromia. He's not a member of the council. And we have the same thing with Somali region. Mustafa, he's not a member of the regional council. And recently we had a protest. He had protests from members of the regional council. So this satellite states with appointees from the federal government we can show us that Ethiopia is actually right now heading towards a unitary system, which is established around one man, around one person. The person can change these leaders at any time when at his wish when he's not, when he feels that he's not, when he feels that he's threatened by these people, he can replace them at any time. Since these people came to power based on his wishes. So with the exception of Tigray, still we have exception in Tigray because TPLF decided not to join the PP, the Prosperity Party of Abiy Ahmed. So that's one thing in the party. But when we see the government of Abiy Ahmed, as you know, and based on the literature, one man government is it's the same like one man party. You have a government in which the leader has absolute power, and the power can be manifested as substituting institutions, system, and then policies and programs. Instead of having institutions and policies, instead of having a system, you just have a one man that can dictate everything. For example, most diplomats and analysts and people who work in the international community have difficulty to even identify this the current Abiy regime ideologically. It's not clear in terms of ideology even, because everything is replaced by Abiy instead of having institution and system in place. Of course, this is inherited from the previous, the defunct EPRDF government. Mallas was, of course, very powerful, but Mallas at least was very clear in his ideological stand. Despite the lack of democracy, despite the control he had in the government, but at least there was policy, there were institutions, and there was clarity of program and policy. But in Abiy, you don't have these things. So you can conclude that Ethiopia is heading towards a one-man party, ruling party, which controls the government and trying to install a unitary system around this person. So I can conclude that the multinational federalism is very threatened right now. It's in a very it's in danger. It's in a very continuous attack, of course, by the right-wing political elites, the Amhara elite. But now they have a government, a guy who dreams to fulfill his mother's prophecy, that to become as seventh king of Ethiopia. So
okay.
These people are trying to help him and then to achieve their ambition of having a unitary system,
Okay.
Ethiopia, in place of the multinational federal Ethiopia. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Alula. And I apologize, I'm trying to cut you. You are, over by a few minutes, but that's fine. We're gonna take a Q&A after our last speaker, Dr. Teferi. I'll bring up his PowerPoint. And I just want to say that for Alula and all of you guys, there is a question side, look at it. I wanted to also acknowledge Mr. Cohen, the former Assistant Secretary of U.S. to African Affairs. He joined us in listening. He already posted a question for, I think it's all of the speakers. Again, we'll come back for Q&A, and I'll go ahead and give a chance to Dr. Teferi. And you have their bios. Dr. Teferi, I'm gonna remove you from mute. I'll try to bring up, let's see. Did you mute yourself? Can you mute yourself? Thank you. should I go ahead and put the PowerPoint?
Okay. Okay, then, okay. No. Hello, Sena.
Yes.
Can you allow me to share my screen?
Okay, let's see if I can do that.
Yeah, you can.
Make co-host. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You are a co-host now. Please go ahead.
Okay. So can you see my screen?
Should I get out of here? Go ahead and share your screen then.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay, let's go on now. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tafari Tafa, and I'm going to speak about Ethiopian election challenge and opportunities and the future of nation and nationalities. And actually, it is a lot, and it is a really big topic. But I want to talk more about election challenge and the opportunity, and few things about nation nationalities. Well, let me start with the Ethiopian state formation. As many of you know, the Ethiopian state formation is, as other people say, that it has no 3,000 years history. That doesn't include the Somali, the Sidama, the Oromo, the Afar, and the other people. But for sure, the modern Ethiopia is created by Menelik, and especially the conquest through conquest. And the conquest was started in 1843, and at least this conquest was, the end of this conquest was 1897, when Borana was conquered in 1897, and I think the Somali was also conquered from 1894 to 1897. And so after that, the modern Ethiopia was created, and the modern Ethiopia was based on the conqueror and the conquest people relationship. That is actually, in short, is called Gabbar system. And during the Gabbar system, people were dehumanized. There was huge, indentured labor for everywhere, at least for, I remember, at least for 15 years. And again, there was slavery. As you know, maybe some of you know that Menelik was #1 slave trader in Ethiopia in late 19th century. And so because of this, there was no, or maybe other Ethiopian people, nation and nationalities were not considered as true citizens in Ethiopia. And because of that, there was no, legitimate government in Ethiopia. But just saying this historical formation of Ethiopia, let me go to how the Ethiopian government claimed its legitimacy in Ethiopia. And the first one, including Menelik, Haile Selassie, and the others, were claiming that they are a benevolent king, and they claim, their Solomonic root, and that's why they are called Solomonic dynasty. And so they claim that our legitimacy is not from the people, but from divine. So we are mandated to rule. We are given a chance to rule these people because God chosen us, and so we are a chosen people. So next to them, just at the end of the Solomonic dynasty, the Derg came into power in 1974, and Derg again claimed that we are a revolutionary. Usually they say that we are by accident, come to power, and since by accident come to power because there was no party who can lead the revolution, and so the revolution gave us mandate, and so we should lead. That's how they claim their legitimacy. And after the Derg, the EPDRF claim the revolutionary democracy. Of course, there is huge change between Derg and EPDRF, but even EPDRF claimed that we are, we were leading this revolution, and since we lead this revolution, and since we should ensure development in Ethiopia. To ensure development in Ethiopia, we need at least 40 to 15 years, and so we should rule for at least 40 to 15 years, even though, Cairo cut that in short. The other one is actually usually ignored, the Geda, and in Geda actually, the legitimacy comes from the people. And in Geda, the government is by the people, government by the people, for the people, and with the people. Saying this, let me go to the next topic, election in Ethiopia, and probably the history of parliament in Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, actually, the parliament, the parliamentary history started from 1913 when the emperor himself, just by his interest, and he said that to modernize Ethiopia, we started a parliament. And he started, actually, the king started two chambers of parliament, the lower parliament and the upper parliament. And the upper parliament had 215 members, and the lower, the upper had 125, and the lower had 250, and both of them are appointed by the king. They were hand-picked aristocrats by the emperor. And so there was no change. But the other differences came in 1957. The first parliament was in 1913, but that, it is unknown. Generally, it is unknown. It's simply called a parliament, but it is unknown. After the Italian invasion, the parliament, that parliament was seized, and the first parliament started again in 1957. And in 1957, for the first time, the country had election for lower chamber. And so the lower chamber, you join the lower chamber by election, and the upper chamber is only, they are like 1913, it is handpicked by the king. And so the election itself was not a fair and a free election, but at least there was election, there was history of election. And in 1973, the same, but there was more diverse voices in it. What makes the, in the imperial, in the Haile Selassie region, the country had 5 elections, and among the 5 elections, the 1973 election was really, we could say it is really a very, it had a member of parliament and had a very diverse voices. For example, you can see the father of Tigray nationalism, who is called Sohul, or Ayala Gassasa, was a member of this parliament, and Mani Mecha and the Tulama members were a member of this parliament. And again, the father of Sidama nationalism, I think, Walda Manuel Dubalo, was a part of this parliament. I don't know about the Sidama, maybe Bakada can correct me. But what I want to say is really, this is a better one in the Haile Selassie region. And then in the Haile Selassie region was defunct in 74, and then the Derg came into power, and the country had no parliament, no parliament, and no House of Representatives, whatever, and the Derg actually ruled the country through Derg Council, and but in 1987, again, the Derg said that that's enough now, and we want to, pass the power to the people, and the Derg organized a parliament called Shango. The Shango had 835 seats, and all the Shango members were elected only from the Derg members, and there was no political party whatsoever. And and again, the Derg government, the Derg ousted in 1991, and then we come to the EPDRF region. And from the beginning, the EPDRF claimed that they are Democrat, and they want to establish a government by the people, for the people. And so they actually formulated a constitution. The constitution they formulated a constitution in 1994. They ratified the 1994, and then the country had an election, maybe relatively free election for the first time in 1995. And in 1995, there were a lot of opposition party who were running for the office. And among these opposition party, 47 opposition party members joined a parliament. And that is really great achievement, because for the first time we hear different voices other than the ruling party. And then the country had another election in 2000, and in 2000 again, the country, 26 opposition members joined the parliament. And again, the other famous election was 2005, and during 2005, there was a really relatively fair, free election, and at this election, 175 opposition party members actually joined the parliament. And in some parts, for example, in Pinpine, in Addis Ababa, the CDU totally, 100%, defeated the ruling party, but finally, since there was a conflict between CDU and the EPDRF government, the CDU didn't take the seat in Addis Ababa, and the city was given to care administration. And so after that, EPDRF learned that this is not a good game. This is not a good chance, and this is not a good game. And they say that by any means, we should block an opposition party. And in 2010, the country actually held an election. And look the difference between the 2005 and the 2010 election. In 2005, 175 opposition party members joined the parliament, but in 2010, only one joined the parliament. And in 2015, zero. No one joined parliament from the opposition party. And I want to just talk about this because, that in 2014, there was a movement which is called the Proto, or the First Cairo movement. And the First Cairo movement revolted against the government. That means the government actually lost legitimacy. And again, in 2015, they held an election and they won 100%. There was a revolution, 100% revolution in 2014. That means the people say no. And in 2015, they won 100%. And that the party who won 100% seat is saying now, I want to just continue for another 5 years. And so saying this, showing you this, the opposition party, I mean the Ethiopian election, I mean the history of Ethiopian parliament. Let me go to the Cairo. The Cairo movement and the governance, and then next topic. As you know, many people actually ignore that there was a Cairo governance. Once Joar said that there is two government in Ethiopia, the Cairo government and the Ethiopian government, and there was uproar saying that there is no such thing. But the reality is there was a Cairo government and the Cairo governance. Actually, we say governance, not the government. And on May 26, 2020, Tarea Stevo actually wrote an interesting point on this movement in the Cairo administrative system. And I think in the future we will refer it as, we now refer as Paris Commune just for 1 year, and the Cairo governance, or the Cairo governance, we can say, or government was only for less than 6 months, but it is really different from the other administrative system. It was shortened for less than 6 months. The movement was for justice, and the movement was also for political equity and equality, and economic equality and equity, and it was against the mistreatment, displacement, and other problems. And what makes the Cairo government different from the all other Ethiopian government, governing system, is the Cairo government was very responsive, because it was from the people, and the young people just in certain area. They say in Kabale, they control the Kabale administration. The former EPDR or OPDO governance, Kabale or Warada government or governing system, they were killing Cairo, and they just because of that they were in fear, and they just fled to other places. Many of them actually fled to Fene, and so there was no administration there. So Cairo took the administration, and so they were very responsive to the people. The people need. They know what that government need. They know what that ANA need, and ANA means Warada. They know what the Warada need, and so they respond to the Warada. They respond to the people, and so they were very responsive than others. In EPDRF, the OPDO, everything come from the center. Everything come from the 36 Executive Committee of EPDRF. If they say, all the time they tell you that this is the direction given from above. But Cairo said that this is the direction given from the people, from the Lord. And so there was huge difference between them. And the other typical difference between the Cairo government and the other governing system was the Cairo governing system was efficient. The leaders were elected from the Cairo, and so there was no huge bureaucracy, and it was very efficient. And they were by the people, for the people, and the model is from Gada direct relationship. It was from Gada democracy. Under Gada, many of you know that every male from 14 to 48 is a member of the parliament, and everybody from 40 to 80 has a right to be elected according to Cairo Manifesto. So, of course, for Gada now it is changed. It's not only male, but since 2008, they changed this law, and everybody, including women and other people, just can be elected. So let me show you, for example, let me show you the Cairo manifesto. I think this was written in 2015. It is in Afan Oromo, but I'll tell you in English. Just let me read. Nuti Cairo Oromo siyasa jibbafi wal balalifacha impenu dhugaa Oromo hundu nuuf wal qixa dhaabni Oromo hundu yaada.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. I'll translate and say it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Namni ummataani sagalee olaanaadhaan hin filatamne ummata geggeessu hin qabu yookiin muudamu hin malleedha. Namni ummata akka geggeessu filatamu umurii 32 haga 56 ta'uu qaba. This is I have taken from the Cairo Manifesto, and the manifesto say that everybody should be, any leader from Kabale to the prime minister should be elected by the people, for the people. And again, anybody who want to elected for the office should be between 32 to 56. And so after that, just let me go to the last point, election under the Abiy government and its challenge. As you see, as many of you know that now the Abiy government is anti-constitutional and it is not holding election according to the constitution in its time. And so really what we are experiencing is, really bad. The Abiy government is dysfunctional. It's not functional now. It is, just a very weak government. And you can see there is no unified policy making. Sometimes, he make a policy by himself. And that's why I agree with Arula that it is a one-man party. And again, he considered himself as a benevolent king. He had this view. He said that I did that. Even he didn't say, or usually he doesn't say like the king, the Haile Selassie, we. He say, I did this during my time. I just bring all opposition party from Asma, from anywhere, and then you are here. Okay, and shift from, it lacks a responsive government. The Abiy government is not responsive, and there is a shift from one party to oligarchy now, because some people are claiming that they are expertise, human rights expertise, law expertise, or election expertise, but they are just creating the oligarchy. And again, they are creating something not existent, what is called Addis Ababa, and they are claiming that ethnic identity or ethnic politics is bad for the country. And so what I want to say is we really missed huge opportunity for democratization. And because of the, let me speak.
Okay, you got 1 minute, Joseph Safari.
Yeah, okay. And the future scenario. And the future scenario is I want to include the future of nation and the nationalities here too. There could be opposition movement. We expect this opposition movement, this protest in next year, or maybe we don't know any time, but because the Abiy government is going to be illegitimate government, and the illegitimate government cannot lead. And as you have seen from the Cairo Manifesto, they say that now onwards we are only governed by a government elected by the people, and so that is going to be. We expect protests, and the other is the other scenario is there may be total disintegration in the future, and so the nation and the nationality in the future may create their own state. Maybe we may expect like 10 to 15 different state, independent state in Ethiopia, in the Horn of Africa.
Okay.
That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Safari. I'm sorry I have to rush you. I have to be fair and equal for everybody. So
You were not.
We'll open up about 20, maybe like 15, 20 minutes just for the two of you guys. And because we have a lot of questions, I would advise that Teferi, now that you're done, look at the question section. You'll be able to see where people comment. You can just, because there's so many questions, I'm getting a question on my phone, and I'm getting, obviously you guys, you can see the question. One of the questions I do want to pull up right away is former Secretary of State for African Affairs, Mr. Cohen. I guess his question, Mr. Cohen, would you like to ask your question? Everybody's been, let me see if I can bring you up. I don't know how to do.
I think I'm unmuted.
Okay, you are unmuted. Go ahead, Mr. Cohen, please.
Well, it seems to me, looking from the outside, that Ethiopia is a nation of nations. And I sympathize with that, because the United States is the same thing. When we achieved independence from the UK, we were 13 different nations. And we decided to have one government, but it was heavily decentralized. Every one of the 13 ex-colonies became very independent, and our Constitution says any power not granted to the central government belongs to the states. And it's worked very well because we're so diverse and I think Ethiopia is exactly the same. Why can't Ethiopia move in that direction where each nation has its own self-determination, and only for central things like trade, monetary, defense belongs to the central government? Why can't they go in that direction?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cohen. I see comment that everybody want to get a chance. So let's see, you got that question. That question applied to both Dr. Teferi and Alula. And Alula, you have plenty of chance to read all the other questions you want to answer. I'll give a chance for you guys take about 2 or 3 minutes each and respond to Mr. Cohen's question. Why can, basically Ethiopia do similar to what the American government have done nearly 200 plus years ago? That is the question. Alula, go first, and then Mr. Teferi, you can follow him up. Okay, let's see.
Well, thank you. I tried actually to bring as an example, sorry for the disorganization earlier, because I was trying, the screen was messed up here when I think when the host tries to share something, I think it goes very confusing here. So sorry for the disorganization that has happened earlier. So yeah, in my presentation, I was trying to give some kind of, comparison between the US and Ethiopia. Abiy, back in June 2019, following the assassination of the chief of staff of the armed or the defense force, Ethiopian defense force, General Sa'ara Mokonnen, Abiy went to the parliament to address questions from members of the parliament. And I think one of the questions was regarding the multinational federalism. And he said the multinational federalism is going to stay here. He's not going to terminate or temper anything. But in the same address, he also said he changed leaders of regional states in Ethiopia, except in Tigray and Benshangul regional states. This shows the whole intention of Abiy's government. You cannot have a Donald Trump waking up in the morning the next day and saying, I have removed all the governors of the states in the United States. You cannot expect that. That's something, something wild, something weird. But it happened in Ethiopia. And the Prime Minister confirmed that in front of the members of the parliament and then on the national TV. So the reason why I said we are heading to a unitary system that is actually spearheaded by one man show. In Ethiopia, there is no policy discussion right now. There is no ideology discussion. There is no discussion from the PP regarding its policy and program. What we see is a man planting trees, watering them, and taking photo ops. That's it. And then he told us, since his introduction as a prime minister, he told us that he has, actually he said that in front of the generals of the national defense, when he was trying to give them, he was in kind of giving orientation to everybody during his early time as a prime minister of Ethiopia. He was trying to give orientation to artists, to leaders of the army, to ministers, to diplomats, and then he was trying to tell them that he is here because of his mother's prophecy. He didn't tell them he is there because of the constitution, because of the multinational federal system that allowed Oromia to have its own party, and then through that party, which is part of the front, the defunct EPRDF, he didn't say that he came through this process. Sometimes he even said he doesn't represent any nation in Ethiopia. He dearly despises the constitution that granted nations and nationalities in Ethiopia to have a self-administration. So when we make the comparisons, actually, it's not a comparison. Right now, we don't have a comparison of systems. We have system here, a federal system, and we have Abiy in Ethiopia. There is no system. He's trying to actually change, to substitute the system by a one-man party and a one-man government. That's what he's trying to do.
Okay.
So after a couple of months, this government will, will be out of its mandate. After September, there will not be an elected government in Ethiopia. But Abiy is telling people that he's going to continue in power without having election. Okay. He's trying to find a constitutional interpretation that can help him stay in power after September 2020. Can we do this in the US while having 100,000 deaths because of the current pandemic, and almost close to 2 million cases, confirmed cases? There is not even an argument, a debate regarding extending, or postponing, or canceling elections. So the comparison is like a system versus a show of individual. So Abiy is trying to take the country towards dictatorship, towards a unitary system, spearheaded by a strong man. But it will never happen. I mean, it's very difficult at this time. Well, maybe after killing many people, Mengistu had succeeded installing that kind of system in Ethiopia, or his predecessors have been successful in installing such a system, but it will never happen now. The Ethiopian political landscape has changed since 1991. There are different political actors in Ethiopia. We have regional states, empowered regional states right now. So the scenario is going to be, the worst scenario is going to be civil war. We are heading towards civil war. We cannot be ruled by a unitary government system headed by a one-man show. So this is what's happening right now. And instead of becoming an example in the region for democracy, human rights, and other federal experiment. We are actually right now copy pasting. Abiy trying to copy paste Isaias, a person who's been in power for 3 decades without election. The best friend right now, the best friend of Abiy in that region is Isaias. There is no IGAD, there is no AU, because Abiy has never been into institutional and systemic framework.
Okay.
He doesn't only despise the federal constitution, the multinational federal constitution, but he despises institutional and system-based working environment. He doesn't like that. That's the exact copy of the regime we have in Asmara. So thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much. Just wanted to say for Dr. Teferi, I do see there's a bunch of questions. I want you to read the question where, the question is posted, because we don't have a lot of time. I will give a chance for Dr. Teferi to answer the comment Ambassador Cohen has said. And the following question I'll take, you already put in there. Please, I'll ask about 2 or 3 people. I want to apologize that I have to cut you because of time. And I do want to say thank you, for sticking around with the difficulty. Again, this conversation is just the first conversation. We will come out with some kind of language as a community together. So we will share it and then stay at the end for about a couple of minutes. All us presidents should come and like to, introduce herself and tell you a little bit about ours and what we do. Now I would like to go ahead and Dr. Teferi, please take 5-minute max and then answer the question or the comment Ambassador Cohen has said.
Okay, thank you very much, Sena, and thank you very much, Dr. Cohen, for your question. Really, I appreciate you. I have read many of your works, and I really appreciate. So the question is, okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the question is why the government, go to the self-determination like American state. Well, there are similarities and there are differences between American state and the Ethiopian state. First, let me start from the difference. When you come to United States is created by a different state. The first 13 states actually defeated the British Army, and then they come together and said, okay, let's create our own government, and let's create our own government, which is a central government, and then we have our own administrative system here at the state level. And so, they created, the 13 states created their own state by themselves because they want to unite it. And they want to be strong. They want to have a strong central government which defend them from anything. And so this federal government, the central government, was found by the will of the people and the will of the state. When we come to Ethiopia, the nation and the nationality incorporated into the Ethiopian government, or let's say impaired by force. Menelik forced them. Menelik actually conquered them, killed them, mutilated them, and some parties have been cut hands, breast. And so finally they incorporated into the central government by force. And again, when they incorporated, they were not considered as a citizen. They were, we have experience of second citizen. We were not equal. We were not, if you, for example, if you don't speak Amharic, you cannot run for an office. You cannot assume any position. Even you cannot go to school, and so on. And because of this, there is huge difference between United States and Ethiopia. But when you come to 1994 Ethiopian Constitution, there is striking similarity between the American Constitution and the Ethiopian Constitution. For example, how the Constitution starts. The American Constitution starts with we, the people. And in Ethiopia, it has started with we, Ethiopian nation and the nationalities. And really that is great. And there is similarity, you know, of who is the owner of this, who is the owner of this constitution. And again, when you come to self-determination, the American states are more assertive. They have democratic experience. And so the state could say no to the federal government. But when you come to Ethiopia, we came from dictatorial government to democratic, relatively, not actually a true democrat. I don't believe that the EPDRF is a true democrat, but at least we have constitution. There is, you know, a pseudo democracy, just lip service democracy, and so in that there is the state cannot assert their self-governance or self-determination. They are afraid all the time. You know, what they know is the federal government dictate the state. That is what they know, and that is what is reality, what is true for them. They cannot. That is why I say the Kero say that our you know, our responsibility is to the people, while the EPDRF government and now the Abiy government say that we are responsible for Abiy only. And as Alula said, I want to add here, for example, the federal government can interfere in the state affair and even can change the president of a certain region. And they have what is called the coalition, I mean the coordinating committee, the PP, Prosperity Party Coordinating Committee, and that coordinating committee choose the president itself. And that is how Shimalis Abdisa come to power. That's how even in the Somali region, in every region actually, now people come to, certain individuals come to the power. And so nowadays, especially nowadays under the Abiy government, the idea and the belief of self-determination is diminishing. It is on the downside than, you know, upholding this idea and this great, great idea. And the other one is from here, I see Girma Hassan. He said, do you think that there will be election in Ethiopia? And I hope there will be election in Ethiopia, but there will not be a true election. There could be, the PP government is saying that I want to have at least 2 years, and maybe they may have 2 years or 3 years, and after 2 or 3 years, there may be an election, and then that election again, the election will not be, I don't think it will be a free and a fair election, and then they may say that just we are elected by the people, and they may say that since we are elected by the people, we have to rule. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Tafari. Due to time and lots of questions we have, I know, Wario, you wanted to say something, but from moving forward for the next 20 minutes, the next 15 minutes, not 20, just that all the questions will be towards all the 4 speakers. And Mr. Wario, when you answer your question, I do want you to go ahead and add your comment to Ambassador Cohen, but not right now. When you answer your question, please, if you don't get asked a question, I'll just give you a chance to speak. But I will go ahead and pick about 4 people in order, and then so you guys have about maximum 2 minutes. I would prefer for you guys to keep your question very short. The first person is Doreje, the second person is Tesfaye, the third person is Girma, and then Mr. Bahiru, and Taman, I think this is the 5 people. I reverse changed for Mr. Bahiru and Girma. In that order, maximum 2 minutes. So it's a cue for me when I put the screen like this. That means I want you to stop. So please, when you speak, I'll put it in the center so everybody can see you. But when it comes to the screen, that means wrap it up and go ahead and finish it. We start with Mr. Dereja, please.
Thank you very much. I hope you are hearing me. I think Tafari and Alula mentioned about, unitary system. We all know Ethiopian state is formed through assimilation, right? See, from 1847, after the modern Ethiopian state is formed, all government, the Minilik, the Azes, the Haile Selassie, the Derg, these are assimilationists, okay? Now in 1991, we shifted in sort of, decentralized system, but it's a hegemonic, it's not, literally it's another form of unitary system. Now, Abiy has a tendency to go to the pre-1991 mode of governance, more of assimilationist rather than decentralized federal system, right? Now, Alula said, he's gearing to one-man rule. Tafari is saying, the same thing. I think what they are looking for is they want to destroy the current, states, de-restructure, destroy everything and revert to more of the assimilationist form of Ethiopian governance. So how we can cope up with this one? I think our future is in an informal quandary. We have seen, particularly from Oromia in 2014, you have seen, because of an Oromo, Amnesty International released a whole thing of it, the human rights violation because of this, because we need a decentralized system. It's obvious. The Sidamas, they are vetted, 98% of Sidamas vet, they need a self-government. But Abiy is reluctant to do that. Now in Oromia, you see in the form of Kero, they are killing. Darg used to go, anti-government, they are killing us. The Wayanes, you are oil left, they are killing us. Now Abiy, we are Shanis, because we are not, looking for his anti-assimilation story, right? How we can cope up with this one? It's the problem is based on the state formation, right? The state formed through gun. They want to gear toward assimilation theory. It's not what you are stated. It's not a one-man rule. They are principally diverting from decentralized national, the government form of state. Instead of democratizing this, they want to revert to assimilationist theory of Ethiopia. That is why they are keep killing us. I decide to resist it. We have to, no question about it. We have to resist this, right? So how you see what I'm saying now, that is how I observe, the current system. After, the report I read yesterday, I'm much worried what are ahead of us, literally. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next person.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. I'm trying to look for you.
All right. My question is very short. I just raised a question for Alula. He said that there were self-determination during the former TPLF rule or EPRDF, but for me, it wasn't. The region doesn't have any autonomy during the former TPLF region, and I just want to hear from Alula whether the former one has full autonomy or gave full autonomy for all regions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That's such a perfect and short. Go ahead, please, Gurma. You're muted. Let me see if I can mute you.
Yeah, you did, I think. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Every panelist, you have done such a great job. Thank you so much. And we all have been desired a great change to come in that nation. Sometimes I call it the empire of Ethiopia. Now, when we come to peace, there is no peace in the last 2 years in Ethiopia. When you come to a reconciliation or justice, there is no justice being served in the last 2 years. You know, I'd like to take you back to 2016. About 800 people have been killed in the single day. Those people who have done this kind of heinous crime are those people who are in power today. It is so injustice. It's so shameful to see that. Even since then, there are so many injustice and crime, lootings have been happening. No justice being served. Even the election, a fake promise that they have made is not going to happen even before COVID-19. We all know that. They are not prepared. They are not going to do election this soon. We all know that. Now, let's come back to the USA. We have this House Resolution 128. How we can add it with the USA government and Ethiopian government, if they have done all those promises that they have been promised, let's see. And we have to do that. And we have to do soon, because our people are in dark, in a greater dark, darker than any time in the past. The other thing, you know, people did in the last 2 years, especially in West Oromia and Guji area, people did not, farm. Okay, shortage of food is coming soon, very, very soon. Starvation is happening. People are not going to school. People are not getting adequate health service. The other thing that what Mr. Abdi said about Jail Ogaden, maybe you haven't seen it. You may heard it. That's not true, brother. There are a lot of friends that I meet every single day here in the Minnesota. They said the jail is filled up again. Okay, that we as Oromo region, we have so many jail Ogaden that nobody can go and see you. No family member cannot visit their family member. So we cannot say there is the jailing has been gone down and the democracy is coming up. No, we should be very truthful for ourselves and for our people as we speak. Okay. Thank you so much. I have done.
Okay, thank you so much. I want to give Mr. Bahiru and the man Dida, just please take 1 minute each, and then we are running a little bit over time, so we started late, and I apologize. And again, as I say, we do have a message from our organization president that is very, very short. I will introduce her in a minute, but go ahead, Mr. Bahiru, please.
Thank you, Chair. I will never take more than 1 minute. Just to put it on. To EPRDF minus TPLF. I'm sure we agree on that. We have agreed on another very powerful message, and that is all the members of PP were created by TPLF. They don't have their own. They are not authors of EPRDF. They are trainees of whoever created EPRDF. Given these two conditions, these are people who are not capable of ruling any country in a nutshell, simply because that is not what they were created for. The brain that created is no longer there. So my question is, short of either transition government that includes every opposition party in that country, or going outright for election regardless of the risk that it may entail, what is the scenario unfolding for the future of Ethiopia, short of breakdown of law and order or civil war? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, last person, the man. Please, somebody raise.
I have 1 minute, perhaps.
Yes, 1 minute, please. If the man Dida, you're there. Okay, so each of you will have about 5 minutes each maximum. And the question, I hope you have seen all the question in the comment section, and you have also heard the people who spoke, who had a chance to, verbally speak. Please go ahead and take a chance. I will start off, I guess, from the first speaker, Mr. Bagala, and you do have a chance to say, and then I'll have Abdi say, and then followed by Alula, and then the last person will speak is Dr. Tafari. After that, give it about 2 minutes only. I wanted to introduce, the person behind this, leading this organization. Go ahead, Bagala, please.
Okay, thank you, Husseina. I have seen any question which forwarded to me, but I couldn't see on comments. So I would like to react on Mr. Quinn's question. He said, yes, let me say something. Dr. Tafari and Alula say, yes, United States and Ethiopia have some similarities and differences. United States once upon a time, maybe like 200 years ago, were colonized by Britain, and these people, when they colonize, they don't have different language. Maybe when it comes to Ethiopia, we have different language, cultures, traditional governments, and so on. So some people say Ethiopia was not colonized. There was internal colony. This all Milik expansion, forceful assimilation came to each nation and destroyed their identity, and then forced them to be part of the system they created. That's empire system. So we have difference here. You have one language, one culture, maybe like some sort of difference, but mostly similarities and common language. Yes. So in our case, this difference came to a matter. Why the reason why it's not the federal system is not moving forward, and there is no real federalism is one. It could be one of the reason. One thing is this one. Why? Because those people who were under the colony of empires was not assumed as they can control and themselves, they can control, they can manage their own resources on their own land. That the more those people who are from the right wing and who came as a result of this conquer, they claim all the time as they are the only people who have a right to control those who are Oromo, Sidama, Somali, whoever, especially southern part of Ethiopian ethnic groups and nations and nationalities. So this is the problem. Anytime, as you can see, when the EPRDF came, there was a chance of hope, even if there was no democracy and now lack of supremacy of law, there is hope for nations and nationalities to have their own self-determination and to have their own regional autonomy. That was what was jeopardized by those people who outcry most of the time, and the rally in the United States, in Europe, and everywhere. That was the problem. The other problem which hold back the real federalism is the government side. Yes, when TPLF came in power, you may assist them because you were, you know them very well. When EPRDF, there was the mission for TPLF. When TPLF started the fight against the imperial regime, they went to create their own regional autonomy. Maybe they went to secession. They changed their mind once they made sure the Ethiopian the Ethiopian system is open for them, and they will be, they will have projects to implement in Ethiopian population, in Ethiopian ethnic groups. That's what they came up. They didn't come with positive mind to change, to transform Ethiopia. rather than take the satisfying their aspiration. That was the problem. These two problems. One, those who outcry and against to the pro-federalist, and the other who the weak governments who is not positive for change, for democracy, for good governance, like EPRDF and the current one. These were the main problem of the federalism. So once this issue, rights government, very visionary government, really visionary, not any kind, visionary leadership. And once nations and nationalities made sure they have their own autonomy to their, and they can control their territory, and the government is positive, yes, there will be real federalism. So we can see such kind of federalism if these conditions are implemented, and we are still lagging behind. We say we claim we have like 1,000 years. That what we know, Ethiopia was created when world started to create their own self-autonomy, self-determination. What we have said earlier, it started in the world. Yes, United States finally revolts colonists from the northern part of America in 1770, something like that. So that the last 18th century world started self-determination and recognizing sovereignty of nations and nationalities and people. But Ethiopia as a nation started in that time. So those people, very stubborn people who never accept the rights and the rights of the nations and nationalities are there. So we need to implement real rule of law and real democracy. And once we implement, those people who outcries will stop, and real democracy and real federalism will be there.
Okay, thank you so much. Abdi, you're up next, please. You have about 5 minutes.
Thank you, Sena. I'd like to make 3 quick points. The Somali region's history is much different than other ethnic groups. In the 1890s, the British came to the Horn of Africa, and we were actually a British protectorate. We've signed an agreement with the British that we were a British protectorate. At no time did Ethiopia stated that this protectorate is part of Ethiopia. As late as 1954, the British were physically in control in the Ogaden. During that time, Haile Selassie has not made one case that Ethiopia is being occupied. So it's much different than, let's say, the history of Sidama or Oromo or Amphars. We were a British protectorate. It's just that in 54, when the British were withdrawing, they made a secret deal with Ethiopia because they were British, they were allies in World War II, to annex us. So at no time was there any other part of Ethiopia where the British were physically controlling, but they were controlling our region, just like they were controlling in northern, what is today Somaliland, in northern part of Kenya, where it's predominantly Somali. So it's much different than other times, other nations. The second thing I would like to stress is, this is to Lulu's presentation. Under TPLF, our regional presidents will occasionally and almost always dismissed by local TPLF colonels. The idea that everyone had autonomy is a farce. When Abdi Ile was providing so much destruction and so much misery to our people, we tried to change him within the system. All of those people, the TPLF interfered so Abdi Ile could stay in power. And the misery of the people in the Ogaden would continue. So there was no autonomy. Regional presidents take orders from the local general up in Harar, which at that time was a Tigray general. So it's not like we had an autonomy and all of a sudden Abiy is taking it away. That's just a reality. The other thing about Jail Ogaden is it's very important not just to mention Jail Ogaden and not know much about it. Please, please, just Google it. The report that Amnesty, Human Rights Watch have written about Jail Ogaden. It's not something that can be just easily thrown around. What was going on there is what is called war crimes and crimes against humanity. You had prisoners being fed feces, okay? Jail Ogaden today, regardless of what people tell you, is empty. And I say this, and in my presentation, the regional government that we have right now is the least competent in the last 30 years. So this is in no way, I'm not trying to defend the local government there. It is the least competent, it is least capable, one of the most corrupt. I said that in my presentation. And it is my hope that for Dr. Abiy and his PP to gain any sort of legitimacy to change the reality on the ground. So that being said, Jail Ogaden was something that was very unique, and it's been going on for at least a decade. And every effort was put in by TPLF to make sure the people in the Somali regional state live under those circumstances. We are not living under those circumstances, just to be honest. We can, there are tons of things we can certainly blame Dr. Abiy. There are certain things we can say he's trying to create a one-man system. I have no information that's not the case, certainly. So there are a lot of things that are up for debate, but it's very important for other nationalities in Ethiopia to at least look at what happened to the people in the Somali regional state under TPLF. It was simply, from the human rights perspective, the worst time you could ever imagine. And it is one of the reasons why in 2015, when there was large-scale demonstrations, because of TPLF's actions in the Ogaden, they lost all support. And it's the reason why the revolution actually succeeded, as compared to in 2005, when protesters were shot and the international community stayed with the government. So I will just leave my presentation there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Alula, go ahead, please. You have 5 minutes. Okay, yes.
Thank you. Actually, most of the questions that have been raised by participants are towards me, so I'll try to address in a brief manner. So the first question from the Jenny, I think, says we're heading towards unitary. We said one-man rule, but we're heading to a unitary system. Yes, that's what I said, actually. A unitary system, which is revolving around a one-man, around Abiy. The right-wing Amhara elites are trying to support Abiy with whatever they have in their hand, so that he can stay in power. It's kind of compromise. Abiy wants to stay in power. He wants to have a control of everything, and then they want to have a unitary system. It's kind of agreement. For example, you have a good example. This political party would change its name from Gimbot Saba to Izema. Izema is basically against the current federal arrangement and the constitution in Ethiopia. They are supporting Abiy. They are opposition, but they are with Abiy. They supported him during his every move against nations and nationalities, again, his every move in breaching the constitution. They even supported him in his decision to not hold election. Now we have also NAMA, the National Movement of Amhara. They supported Abiy in his stand to extend the election. So these people who surrounded Abiy are with ambition of establishing a unitary system. Actually, they are restorationists. They want to restore the previous system. So they have to work with Abiy. They have to give him, support what he wants. He wants to stay in power. And Abiy has been very clear in his intentions regarding establishing a one-man ruling, a one-man government. It's because of two things. One, he's not capable of, clearly outlining his policy and program. No one knows what's PP. What's PP's program and policy? The Madammar book is just a bunch of, plagiarized materials without robust political, robust and substantive political program. It's just a hodgepodge of or amalgamation of different motivational books. It's just about positive thinking. So Abiy is trying to become or to fulfill his mother's prophecy or dream. He openly said he's going to be the seventh king of Ethiopia. So he has support of people with intention of establishing a unitary system, which is the final destination is going to be unitary system, definitely. Abiy, he doesn't like the constitution either. He doesn't agree with the federal arrangement, with having political parties based on ethnic identity or national identity. That's why he dissolved the former EPRDF and created PP. That's one thing. So I can say it's a one-man rule, but with the destination of unitary system.
Okay.
So that's one thing. The second thing is autonomy during the defunct EPRDF. Yes, regional states were not granted autonomy. So what are we going to do now? Are we going to continue with that? Or are we going to celebrate unitary system because of that? Are we going to embark a unitary system because we didn't have an EPRDF that didn't respect regional autonomy? That's why EPRDF went through, the reason why EPRDF went through reform, people supported in a hope and a very optimistic fashion, because people were expecting a real reform, implementation of the federal arrangement, the real multinational federal arrangement, not unitary system, not one-man ruling. They were supporting the reform. People who've been crying for, for respect of human rights, for democracy and free expression, they supported. They actually joined the struggle inside the EPRDF to bring about change.
Okay, thank you so much.
That's one thing, but they didn't expect to go back to unitary form of government system. They didn't expect that. What Abiy trying to do is out of the demand of the people. For example, you can take the southern nations and nationalities and the Oromo. The struggle was not to restore a unitary system. It was actually to correct EPRDF's wrongdoing, to implement, to genuinely implement the constitution and the federal arrangement. So that's one thing. So there was no autonomy, yes, but what you can do is you have the federal arrangement, the constitution, so you implement it. So that's one thing. Okay. I would like to say something about the role of TPLF in protecting the
constitution. You got less than a minute, Alula.
Okay. So yes, I don't want to say the role of TPLF. I want to say the role of Tigray. Tigray as a nation, we paid ultimate sacrifice to bring about this federal arrangement and multinational federal arrangement and constitution to Ethiopia. So we want to protect this constitution, and I expect the role of the US in democratizing Ethiopia to continue. The US has been a good friend of Ethiopia for a long time, so I expect the US to play its role in democratizing Ethiopia instead of supporting one-man rule and going back to the old system, because it will lead Ethiopia to civil war, restoring the old system, and having a one-man ruling party will lead us to civil war, and the US will not have a national interest in the region or in Ethiopia having a country engulfed by civil war. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alula. Keep it 5 minute max. We're already way above. Please, Dr. Teferi, you got.
All right, thank you. Okay, the first question actually for me was by Daraje Jima, I think, and he was asking about, we are going back to pre-1991, and again, he was saying there is, continuous, I don't know, maybe there will be assimilation. I think his question is related to assimilation. And then the other one is about human rights condition. And let me just say here about the human rights condition first. Of course, there is human rights violation during TPLF, EPDRF, and again, even now. And this human rights violation will continue, even though yesterday we have seen that the Amnesty International report is shocking, and it is really a shame to the new government, but believe me, it will continue. The dictatorial government never learn from their mistake. They don't learn from their mistake, and they are addicted to committing human rights violation because they are dictatorial government. Just let me stop about human rights there, and let me go to about the assimilation. When you come to assimilation, yes, there was cultural assimilation for a long period of time, including, our name. My name is Inamarik, your name is Inamarik. I don't have my ethnic name because my family thought that, I get to school. If you go to school having Oromo name, that the school may not accept you. You may not be admitted to the school, and you cannot get education. And that's how we are assimilated. But now it doesn't work. And it doesn't work anymore. Let me tell you why it doesn't work. The first one is about consciousness. When I say about consciousness, I go to the Marxist point of view, the elite consciousness, or the few people who are conscious. Actually, Karl Marx mentioned that, but he didn't mention it in detail. Then Gramsci pointed, and then Miche, and from ethnic point of view, Sitole from Zimbabwe mentioned it. And that is what we call, for Marx, workers for itself and workers in itself. Workers in itself, what Karl Marx means, workers in itself, is they are simply worker, and working is their, the means of life. They don't know, they are not conscious of being even worker. And they don't conscious of being oppressed. But among them, some people become conscious and then just agitate other people, saying that we are under the bad condition, working condition, and this is not what it meant for us. And then the workers themselves become for itself, workers for itself. And then they become really politically active. And when it comes to ethnic group, the same is true. Ethnic is itself, for a long period of time, we were Oromo. Oromo is our ethnic identity, and that's all. I say I am Oromo, everybody say I am Oromo or Sidama or Somali or Tigray, but that's all. But few people from them, especially the educated elite, become conscious and they understand the lot of their ethnic group. And finally they become conscious and then they start to mobilize the whole ethnic group. And then the ethnic group become ethnic for itself. And nowadays, Oromo is an ethnic for itself, not in itself. Somali is an ethnic group for itself, not in itself. Tigray is assertive and ethnic for itself, not in itself. Sidama is true. Everywhere you find there. And in this condition, in this situation, it is hard to implement what he called the cultural assimilation. Simply, they don't say yes. You cannot do that. You can push it. For example, the federal government now, they are saying, the education ministry of Ethiopian government say that we are going to start Amharic from grade 3. In the past, Amharic started from grade 5. And, to decide what the student should learn is left to the regional government. It's up to the regional government according to the constitution, Ethiopian constitution. And every region has a right to decide where they teach their student and how they teach their student, any language they teach to their student. But the federal government is dictating now this. And so there could be push, there could be, willing to do this, but ultimately it failed. And then the other one is a political control. There will be political control, of course. Still, the government is going toward to that direction, creating the PP and the PP ideology, discrediting and to greater extent, de-ethnicizing the Ethiopian politics. This is the move from the constitution to what Alula said, unitary system, or the central government, or the political control. But again, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. Why this doesn't work? I go back to what I said, because we are ethnic for ourselves. And the other point is, let me tell you, the other point why it doesn't work is because the time we are in. Now the technology is democratizing everything. Social media is democratizing anything. The dictatorial government heavily dependent on the media they control. And they have their own media and they push out their ideology only through that media. And so they actually ban any other media. In the past that worked. But nowadays, it doesn't work because social media is everywhere. And literally social media is a media for everybody. So everybody has a media now. And everybody is a citizen journalist. And everybody is reporting what is happening everywhere in every part of the world. In the most remote area of Africa, you can get a report now through social media. And because of this, social media actually democratized, and now the voice, and hear the voice in the past are being heard now. And that's why we got this detailed and the first-hand information of human rights violation in Ethiopia by Amnesty International. And so the technology itself doesn't allow, is not favorable for the dictatorial government. And because of that, it has no power and it has Of course, it has effect, but it has no power, and it will not continue, according to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And as I said, this is our first event for this type of conversation. Definitely is not our last. It will be more. I wanted to thank everybody. But before I get there, I wanted to give our president, can you mute yourself, Yantu? Yantu is a young woman who's an engineering major. She is Ola's current president from 2020. She works on youth development and IT. She does a lot of amazing things. I wanted to take a time to introduce her to you guys. One, she's a young woman who grew up in this country and she does a lot of activity. And a lot of you guys here have kids. And I want you guys to kind of maybe share her vision. And because people like Ayantu grow up here, they understand American culture, but they are also very active in their, Oromo or whatever ethnic they come from. I think it's time we have an opportunity right now as, the whole world have an opportunity because of this pandemic. There's going to be a lot of things that we're going to reshape. Ayantu, could you please just introduce yourself? And I don't know, can you make the screen bigger? I'm having a hard time to make
when I speak.
Yeah, like make the screen like spotlight on yourself. It's not okay.
There we go. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this because we worked hard to make this happen. I think when it comes to these kind of programmings or when an organization actually does something, you don't see what's going on behind the scenes. And we want to do way more of these. If you don't know, especially from don't have an Oromo background, it is that Ola means neighbor as well. We want to become an institution. We do not have someone who represents us and brings all aspects together. Advocacy is very important. This is what Sana works on, and this is most likely why you see her face, but we have a full board. And then we also have a development branch, and that's the one I focus on mostly. And that is helping grassroots organizations. The one big project that we're working on is with the youth. We are bringing youth from all around the world. We're talking China, Australia, Canada, and working on a very special project that is gonna come soon, hopefully in August or September. I just want to thank y'all for coming, tell you a little bit about Ola. There is a video at the end that you can watch, very short, and also includes a message that we got from, Tom Emmer of Minnesota's Congress. And it, during Corona, we had a major event, but it didn't get a chance to go on. So hopefully you can hear him speak and continue to support Ola. We are new. And that's all I wanted to say. So thank you. And hopefully we can do more of these kind of conversations because it's very, very important to bring diverse voices together.
Okay. I wanted to thank, I wanted to thank you guys for your patience, for you giving us your time. And I seek your forgiveness for we started about 30 minutes late, so we are finishing at about 30 minutes late. And for the technical issues, especially those people on Facebook, we did have a deal with about 3 media that's supposed to add, but we also did have a little bit of technical issue. Again, thank you so much, Ayantu. Thank you, Mr. Cohen, for joining us. He was our speaker of March event. But this is a first conversation we wanted to have. We wanted to, I understand there's so much human rights violation going on in Ethiopia. A lot of our followers are asking us, why are we not speaking up on that issue? We are speaking up, and definitely that's why Mr. Cohen himself is here. That's why you hear Abdi from Somalia region. Even though the situation might be better, because we're not focused in Somalia region. We as Oromos are so focused in tune about only our problem. So this platform, we wanted to have a conversation. What does the life look like for the Somali Ethiopians? What is it the Oromos are experiencing? Maybe if we come together, hear each other as a humans, as a fellow citizens, that rather than just crying to America, that we can answer, because we as Allah, I myself, I'm not concerned about Abiy, but I'm concerned what tomorrow will look like after Abiy leave. We're not having that conversation, and that lack of that conversation is what led us to Abiy as Oromos. We did not have that conversation. So as Allah, we want to have that conversation. We are having that conversation with the leaders like the one we brought for you guys. These are very prominent people from the area, and the evening we have it with the different communities. So stay tuned, sign up, support us, and I wanted to thank everybody so very much. So we'll follow up with you guys. And for we will have resolution. I just wanted to say, we will have resolution that will go around, that we're trying to have. We as a different ethnics in Ethiopia are concerned, especially about federalism, that we want to, we have talking to different congressmen and different leaders, different community leaders, not just the Ethiopians, but American community, to push this country. We are going towards very scary new territory. We wanted to have this conversation. Let's reach out to each other. And I wanted to say thank you, and that's about it. Have a lovely afternoon.
And stay tuned for the video.
Very much.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you, everybody. Thank you, Sena and Yan too. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Cohen, do you have anything you wanted to say? I'll give you last chance if you'd like to speak. I mean, you did, some people did comment that you are more than happy. We are more than happy if you wanted to add anything.
No, I just want to say thank you. It's a very interesting discussion. I thought I knew a lot about Ethiopia, but I'm learning every time. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. We'll end it with that.